Hello. I don't know what happened to the sound there. I think I'm live. It's Wales. Look at this. This is Wales. Wales. You know, I feel out to my button up. Don't want to get everyone too excited about that. This is the first show we've had for a couple of weeks. I'm joined with David Amland and Travis. Travis is hiding in the background, and we're going to talk about collections. I feel that you ought to know this is Wales' 270 days of the year, usually with rain. So if I post a nice picture of Wales, it's lovely when it's sunny, but not all the time. Just to be fair and factful and truthful and everything else, and maybe that relates to something David's going to say in a little while. David Amland, how are you?
I'm great. A little bit tired, like everybody else now. You know, it's summer and we're all still working. The weather is not playing ball. You know, it's one of these things. It's either too hot or too cold, too cloudy, or too sunny. It's just not right.
It's not. But we're here. And we're here for half an hour, and we're talking collections. And Travis is here. Do you want to say hello, Travis? You're there. Waving.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Glad to be back.
Good to be back.
And Martin, you look. I like the background there. That's nice. Even though it's a little bit cloudy, it almost looks hobbitish behind you. Is that a word?
It's my hairy feet. All right. On that note, hello, Nikki and Tanya and Jim and Carmen and Lindsay and Dave and Julie and everybody else. Collections. So there's lots of. I've got things written down for you, and then we're going to come to David for some seriously sensible stuff. And I'm going to start the story. A little while ago, I sent out in my newsletter and I posted and I asked people around Plus Your Business to subscribe or opt in to two collections. Business, connecting the dots, and life, the universe and everything. And I put a video, and it's on the Plus Your Business channel, and I showed what to do, and I think that the bells moved into a more accessible place since then, which is great, but also to come back and let me know if you subscribed. And I said I would report back to find out whether the engagement rate was different primarily to the method that I always used to use, which it was to share a post public, and then to share a circle, and to notify by email. And that's a technique that we've been using in the Academy, and everybody knows the process that we do from there for those members. And it's also on the Plus Your Business site if you're interested. Just look for opt-in lists, and it gives you a taster. Okay, so a number of people came, and they let me know that they'd opted in. Since then, I've been looking at how quickly people engage, because they're not getting an email, it only goes to notifications. This is the key difference. And seeing the engagement rate overall. And I have to say, and David will talk about the measurement. We don't know, I don't know for sure how many people subscribe. I have to say that for something important, I would still use the circles. I would still want it in my control that, assuming you haven't muted me, that I always have difficulty with that word, muted. Muted is that you get an email and you're going to get a notification. That is my preferred route. So that's the test back. I've got 7 things to run through. Test back, I would still do that, and then I would move it into the collection after. However, the principle of asking somebody to opt in, to subscribe, absolutely yes. Now, I've done some strange little things. Bears. Today, I posted possibly one of the most fringe things I've posted in a long time about the Berenstain Bears. And there's a whole, I've told Travis I wouldn't spoil this, there's a whole conspiracy thing going on. This was a test, okay? A whole conspiracy thing that there was one universe when the spelling was E-I-N at the end, Stein, and another universe, this one, which is S-T-A-I-N. And that at some point in time we switched to universes because people have got the memories of this other spelling of this thing. And it's on Reddit, and it was trending on Facebook yesterday, and so on. Okay, so lots of reasons why I posted that. The one, I wanted to see the difference in engagement of who would engage on that as opposed to some of the other content that I've posted, because a lot of it is on spirituality and a lot of it is on sort of Jason Silver type stuff, on technology and futurism and singularity and all of that. And I want to do a comparison. Go and have a look at the post yourself and you see there's a comparison. If you look at the comments, and you see that it's kind of entertained on the comments, the nature of that content, going into that context, nobody, well, there's one chap, nobody else wanted to go near it. I left it running for a long time, closed off comments, and I sort of talk about it now. Nobody wanted to go near it. And what it did is give me almost like an outlier within that collection set to go, okay, that's the most kind of friends there. What is the engagement baseline? And let's see how that's compared with some of the other ones. Now, there was one factor, if you want to look at isolating variables, I did include hashtags. So it wasn't strictly it wasn't solely the subscription alone. And looking back, I should have not done that if I wanted to isolate that. But what I would say, unless you're still building your opt-in in, unless you're still asking people, unless you are asking people to subscribe, you don't really have control at punctuating people's attentions. If you want to go back a week or two, can you punctuate people's attentions plural? You know what I'm saying. Have a look at a post I put out on notifications. I am convinced this is the main thing that you need to get a grasp of right now is who is getting what? Because if not, you post stuff, you don't actually know who's receiving it except for the stream. So I really, and those that have been around for a while know I'm obsessed about this. But I looked at LinkedIn. It's all in the blog post. And it's on notifications. So go and have a look. So that was that. Little test. Next thing, we're going to come to David. The collections are fantastic for differentiating your content into niches. Fantastic. That is the greatest strength. If you can master the notifications and people really want this content and they know what they're getting, they know when they sign up that this is the consistent content. Bears aside, because that pushes it right to there. You want people to keep the bell on because you don't know if they've turned it off again. So you want to keep the quality and the consistency up. Also, come to David, Google wants that too. David, over to you, collections.
Hey, where do we start from? All right, there's a lot of things happening. But, I mean, essentially, let's look at a couple of things. Why do you use Google Plus as a user, rather than a content creator? And why would what would be important to you in terms of any kind of business as a content creator? And really, the answer to this is the same. Both those who actually access it and those who create it, what we crave is clarity. We want to be sure that the content we create is seen by the people who are most likely to appreciate it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And collections can actually deliver on that front. For the first time ever, we've divorced, thankfully, the personality cult from the content. So, I don't need to follow you or Mike Elgan or anybody else in order to actually see the quality content which you create, which is of specific resonance to me as an avid consumer of social media. And that's fantastic, because what it means then, Martin, is that even though I may not personally be following you, I'm invested in what you create in a particular niche. And you share a lot of content. You've got quite a big range and a great repertoire. So the moment that you actually have me as a follower in a particular niche and you have other followers in a particular niche, then you begin to establish a multifaceted personality, pretty much like you would in real life, where Google suddenly understands that, hey, you're an expert in marketing, and you're also an expert in social media, and you're also an expert in perhaps stand-up comedy. And although there's a huge diversity in that expertise, they're not all at the same level. You're not equally expert at all of them. And how fantastic that we can actually machine mine it for the first time ever through the multiplicity of the interactions and the assessment of what happens when people actually follow you and engage and share and reshare and comment along that content. And it's all thanks to collections.
Yes, and the naming of these things. So we've got a project on at the minute, and you will have seen it if you haven't seen it yet. The WeDig movement that we're building, and little by little within the academy, and then potentially moving outwards. We have a project where people are now creating their own connections, and the WeDig collections. So maybe we dig LinkedIn, or maybe we dig cartoons, or it could be we do visual storytelling, and so on and so on. And I've curated a collection of collections. And you can actually, I think it was Kamal Taylor saying, you can have like a a collection section sort of thing, where you keep on the collection of collections. I don't know if you know, but the idea being that I'm curating into a master collection called We Dig Collections, other people's collections, so that we can see as a community what is going on. What are the focus? It's very hard since circles are no longer able to be freshly shared. You can still add in the old ones. But you can't. We've got to find new ways of keeping together, and collections are an opportunity for people to display that uniqueness, and that's really what David's saying. Is that it's you within a context, whether it's marketing, or social media, or cartoons, or whatever it is. It's you, and your posts are going in there, and the frame, the little frame that's set around it, is the name of the collection. And what I'm doing is bringing the community together for those that are involved in this project into one place. The names, moves on to my number 4, begins a process of brand building in the stream. And this is one of the things that I adore about us. And I was going to say this platform.
Only one?
Well, this
one of many.
I know. Okay, one more. But the ability to get people's attention and potentially to sustain their attention over time, because we've got a lot of tools. And what you're going to find is the We Dig brand, which has been decentralized, democratized, is what we've been talking about, is everyone can have their slice of it. And okay, here's the one sales plug. The Academy, we've got great stuff going on. It's gone beyond Google Plus, because now we're looking at, well, how do you get top of mind with the influencers on Twitter, exactly, or on Facebook, or on LinkedIn? See, big fans. And how do you do that? You do it through understanding notifications. You have to understand that. You do that. That's mainly how you do it on those platforms. But here we've got extra things going on with the stream. And without it being a really heavy, almost over-the-top branding exercise, everybody can gently display their uniqueness within that vertical and be part of something. And that's what I like the collections for, that, because that little branding that goes on the top of it just subtly says, this is what we're doing. Now, there's another. Let me go to the next thing on my list. I told you that already. And I told you about the collection of collections. Okay.
Wait, Martin, real quick.
Yeah.
You want to take a quick question real quick here?
Yeah, you can do. Or shall I just say the last thing? Let me say the last thing.
Oh, okay, say the last. Sorry.
What was it? No, go on. What's the question? I can't see it. Carmen?
Here it comes. Yeah, it's coming.
Okay. So, hello, Carmen. Did I understand that correctly? I can have a collection of collections that I like to follow. Yes, you can. And people can follow that collection of collections and put the notify on, subscribe to it, and every time you share a new collection into it, they would receive a notification that you've done that. So you can become a curator of collections. Yeah. As I said, I think it was Kamal that gave me that idea, actually, I don't know, however many months ago. So that was cool. So the last bit, because we're talking about brand building, and there's so much. In the old days, when people would say, what do I love about Google+? Why am I so, let's use the word obsessed? I'd say, probably at the moment, Drive and YouTube. And I was doing it a little bit play. That's what I used to say, because there's so much you can do. So, for instance, in the Academy, we've got, and I'm not being pushy salesy, all I'm saying is we've got this thing going on, you know what the deal is, or somebody can post a link, they get in touch with me, and the purpose is just to explain how we're using Drive. There's a link in the link section that has a selection of 3 different official We Dig logos. And without Drive, I don't know how we would do this. We'd have to host it on the site. It wouldn't work. But it means that anyone can access, and they can then download and add that to their collection banner, or add that to an image, and so on. What we're doing through all of this is using this as an exercise to teach people how to use the tools. And this is the great benefit of this sort of social play and this sort of social experiment, is you learn through doing. And I'm just setting the context and hopefully making it fun, and we're building the brand together, and I've been explicit on my intent, because we're launching We Dig Reviews. That's the primary thing, the primary product that I have coming out, and I want to create a movement where other people are sharing the energy towards that product launch. We're just getting the opt-ins. That was a different one, wasn't it? And that lies there. We'll start to look at YouTube, and I have YouTube videos coming out, and there's ones with Dustin Stout and Ryan Hanley and loads of people you don't know, which were from the Social Media Marketing World Conference, and they're going to be We Dig Storytelling, and we'll come on and we'll talk about that again. And the brand builds the content. And David, narrative. We were talking before about narrative. Do you want to dive in? Otherwise, I'll.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned a lot of things there, and even before we start about narrative, and this is actually tangentially related to it, you said collections are essentially a form of curation. Curation is an abstraction. Basically, you're creating more and more abstract layers, and they're more and more rarefied, but that also is a form of storytelling. The moment you arrange things in a very specific order, they acquire a set of meaning which is independent of them, but determined by them. So if you take 5 separate stories and you put them together, suddenly you have a collection of something which means something because the stories are together.
Yes.
So this is something this is worth remembering, because essentially when you curate stuff, it is guided by the narrative in your mind, if we call it that. And narrative essentially allows us to determine direction, define identity, and create a community around a shared story.
Perfect. Now, and the timing couldn't be even
Which
better.
brings us to the power of narrative. Yeah.
Now, let me talk about this. Go on.
We need narrative, and why do we need it? Well, essentially, if we don't have a particular narrative to subscribe to, and I know it makes us seem sometimes very superficial as people, and very cognitively challenged, if we can call it that, and we are, because their minds are, whatever massive bandwidth we have, it's never enough. We are constantly doing things. So if we constantly have to rework and recalculate and redefine our place in the world every single part of the day, we're not going to get very far past the 9 o'clock mark. And the day has a lot more hours than just 2 or 3. So essentially a narrative is a heuristic shortcut which we use in our heads to allow us to comfortably fit into a direction without thinking about it too much. So for instance, if a buddy of yours comes up and says, hey, let's go out for a beer. Well, you don't have to think. First of all, beer, is it acceptable alcohol? What's the alcohol level? Who makes it? What are the ethics of the brewery? Because the narrative of social structures we're in with, sharing a beer with a friend is perfectly acceptable and it's part of the friendship narrative which you create. So you don't have to actually analyze it to that degree. Somebody who doesn't know, you'll say, hey, Martin and David had a beer. Wait a minute, didn't David say back 6 months ago that he didn't like beer? Is he lying? Has he changed his mind? Is this beer special? This is the kind of thing that if you constantly granularly analyze things, you create a lot of dissonance in your head, because it creates a lot more work than it should. So narratives are very powerful, which is why brands use them. They use them because they create a shared culture. They allow us to say, hey, we're just like you. We share the same ideals. We share the same direction. We work with the same imperatives. Yes, we may be a big multifaceted corporation intent on making a lot more money than you, but at the end of the day, we share the same story. And that also is important in terms of how we create our own personal narratives, because they are, as part of our identity, we are part of an ever-evolving, ever-being-written story in our heads. So we need to be aware of that.
Perfect. Let me tell a story. And then we'll come on to my never-ending pencil, maybe. Luke. There you go, Luke. Right. So Google announced, what day was it? Yesterday, day before, that they are now going to have the parent company above them. Alphabet. And the website address they gave was abc.xyz. And I kind of just went like that, and I actually looked at who owns. I did go and have a look at who owns that URL, and I saw when it was registered and all that sort of stuff, just out of curiosity. And Luke got in touch, and he's an Academy member. He got in touch today by email, and he just sent the article, which I'd seen, but he put at the top just wedig.xyz. I think maybe put a question mark or something like that, right? Should I buy it? And I didn't have decent Wi-Fi today. I was away. And should I buy it? And I got back. All right, let's go and have a look if it's gone. I don't know, you could have bought it. And I went, and it's available. Now, I've been looking for a URL that we could use as a URL shortener for the community. So we have the Plus Your Biz shortener, and I have Martin Scherv as a shortener. And so I went, this is perfect. WeDig.xyz. Anybody who's creating the collections, anybody who's involved in this can then use that and have that as branded. So we've got the collections branded, we've got this then as branding. So we're going to be getting that set up. So that's very smart of Luke. Great suggestion. And this is the thing. This goes beyond, and this is what it had to be. In order for me to launch the WeDig reviews on here, I wanted to get the energy up. And I wanted to bring people with. Because it's been a lot of change, and people haven't noticed, like, listen, that sounds so good. It's like, listen. Yeah. We can do this together. That's it. I've been saying this over the last 3 years. You have to help each other. You know, and one of the big cultural things is +1 comment, share other people's stuff. Yeah, support each other. If you've got a network, spread the information. It doesn't cost you anything to do that. As long as the content is good, as long as there's no social risk. I mean, the bears over there. Well done, Mary and Frank, for sharing the bears, by the way. I like that. And maybe it was in there. Anyway, but you got the bet. As long as you understand where somebody's coming from, collections give you an opportunity to see consistency. And you can increase the trust you have that when the content comes through, it's worth having on Notify or worth having subscribed to, and that it's likely, if they've created it, it's going to be good quality and good enough for you to be then just quickly check or go and deep read or whatever you need to do, and then +1 comment, share. So the idea being that this is a way for people to come together. And that's what we've been working on. And I feel delighted, and it's taken 3 months to get to this point. We've got the reviews product that will launch officially in September. We're still doing the test. But this goes beyond platform. It goes beyond Google products, even though we're focusing a lot, and we learn, we teach people how to do search, and this is community building across all platforms. And branding together across all platforms. So if you take the Seth Godin, and Seth Godin was very influential. I have his daily newsletter or his daily blog come through as a newsletter. And one of the points he's making, if you want to create a movement, give people the tools and then allow them to do what they do. So last bit here. So well done, Luke. That's that. I receive notifications. Ben Fisher, thank you for the link to the domains tools. I think it is domainstools.com. I'm tracking then who registers new WeDig domains. And I was also seeing which ones are already in existence and so on. So I get a notification that somebody, WeDigNWA.com. Now, my mind goes, of course, we've got like Straight Outta Compton coming out, and NWA in my sort of like late teens, early 20s was kind of like, I was kind of down with it a little bit. And I was like, who's into NWA? I thought, wow, I wonder if that's within network or whether the meme, which I mean a unit of thought or behavior that replicates, WeDig, we're in heart, whether that has gone beyond network. And I looked who it was that registered it, and I didn't say go and register a domain. He did this of his own volition, Jim Shankle. So you have a look at my profile at the moment, and you have a look at the story that's been created. I'll move these posts into a collection in time, but I'm just doing it public to start with. This is all part of the story. And since last year, since the Social Media Marketing World Conference last year, I've been telling people, hold a narrative together from post to post, from conversation to conversation, bring people in, lift them up. That is a really useful kind of, why else are we doing this? We've got these great networks. As long as you can relate long enough, as long as you don't fall out too much, then help each other. And even if you do fall out, then +1 comment shares make a big difference to getting back into supporting each other, because it doesn't mean that you have to get married. It just means that your network will allow the flow of content to the people that those other networks can't see. So, or don't have as part of it. I mean, that's the whole principle. So this is a narrative that allows a community to come together and storytell. Now, as it happens, Jim isn't an NWA fan, Straight Outta Compton, it turns out. Northwestern, Kansas. It's because he's at that university and he thought this would be a nice thing to have as part of his MBA program and talk about what you do in the social media and top of mind awareness. And there's an enormous amount of things that will come out over time. I'll tell you, what I can about how we're building the brand. And Jim wanted to be part of it. So that is part of the story that gets told. He will then tell the story of how this brand. My intent, again, explicit. I want to write a book. And I have and this is a big part of that. And so it's taken me months and months and months, launch the brand, bring the community with, write the book. So this is great. And say, Luke, brilliant today, because that was another piece of the puzzle. Jim, another piece of the puzzle. Hilarious, because you got the movie coming out really soon. So it's storytelling. It's not just posting your stuff and getting the engagement. Link the things between. Use collections as a way of holding the narrative, exactly as David said.
Martin, we have another question for on collections, if you'd like to take it.
Sorry. And by the way, this pencil, do you know what? This pencil's been really, it's good. The rubber doesn't fall. But this pencil's been, I'm really happy with this, but it is getting a bit shorter, little by little.
That's a good question from Todd. Essentially, collections become part of your, let's backtrack a little bit. The content you share, the content you engage with, and the content you actually reshare and are associated with is part of your identity. So, and it's always multifaceted. It's been, okay, if that's the case, and I'm online to work, but also need to be myself and be social, where do I draw the line? How do I divide my content? Everybody asks that. And we usually say, well, you need to have about 60% business stuff, 40% social stuff, or 80% business stuff, or 20% social stuff on your profile. But, if you have a business page, it's 100% business. But really, that's, this is a guideline that's, we made it up. We guess what works for us. What works for me is different from what works for Martin, for instance. And Travis will do something else, and Todd will do something else. And it'll work for them because, essentially, how you do it, the execution, is part of your character, your style, and your audience. It's quite a synthesis. So it's unique. We get to collections now, and suddenly it becomes a little bit clearer. Because essentially, if you have a collection, and, let's say you're selling used cars, and you have a collection called used cars. What are you going to have in there? Not jokes, not card gifts, not little stories about flying pigs. It'll be used cars. And that's brilliant, because suddenly it clarifies things for you. It lets you know that this is exactly what you should be doing. In that collection, it'll be used cars. So if somebody is quite comfortable with you, sharing jokes and sharing card gifts, but really doesn't care about their work stuff, they can completely block it out. They can follow you for the other things. If somebody is really interested in your opinion about used cars because you happen to be the world's famous expert on the subject and you have a lot of interesting things to say, well, I don't care about your card gifts because it's a used car thing that excites me, and I can follow the collection and really connect with you on that level without feeling that you're polluting my stream or you're basically weakening the message and I don't really know who you are after a while. So collections create clarity. They're great for forming your online identity. They're great for clarifying with people who want to connect with you what you actually stand for. And they're not hard work. They make things easy.
Perfect. Last minute, folks. Let me just say, thanks for liking the story. I'm able to take it again. Kim. Tanya, behave, I think, on that one. Peter, yes, I probably need to. I think I might use a computer for it. Although, I do. Everyone should know. I love these books. There we have it, folks. That was the Plus Your Business show. Collections. You got my views. You got David's far more intellectual views on it. We've got a lot of experience. Realize that it's still very much a work in progress. I think this is the beginning of it, and I think that with the recent attention on changes, collections are pretty central. Make that central to what we're doing. So remember what I said at the moment. I still think circles are important, and I still think notifying by circles, if you've asked people to opt in, useful tool. But look at how best to ask people to opt into your collections and opt in to others. And do check out the collection of collections on my profile, lots of people from the Academy, and reach out to me if you want to chat. My email, martin@plusyourbusiness.com. Thank you so much to David Amerland, and as always to Travis Taylor, and thanks to Peter and Michael and Nikki and Carmen and Tanya and David and Jim and everyone else. See you all soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.